Hello, welcome to our next painting. We are going to select another object to paint. This can be a choice object, and we will now utilize the whole understanding of everything we see within the image we select. So I have selected a toucan, and what we're going to do with this painting is use an abstract slash post-impressionistic mindset when we are painting this. Post-Impressionism dealt with the idea of altering and bending the idea of color and light. So I'm going to showcase how that's going to be done, as well as kind of starting to develop an abstract mindset and allow yourself to be more creative and spontaneous with the mark makings you do, as well as the colors you select. So I know a lot of projects we've done previously are focused on developing realism and three-dimensionality through form, highlights, shadows, opacity, transparency, all those things we focused on learning the basics to move on to understanding how to develop realism. As always, every well-known abstract artist of their time most likely knew the basics first. So even though you might see an abstract artist, you could also understand that they knew how to do the basics. They knew how to recreate an image and make it look like a picture or a photograph. But now they took that knowledge and branched out and became a more abstract-minded individual. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to focus on using a large brush almost the entire time. I know, contradiction to what I've said before, but once again, we're trying something new, but usually smaller areas, smaller brush, which you can still utilize that mindset a little bit. But with this painting, we almost want it to be strictly transparent. And you can see my drawing that I've accomplished of my toucan. Okay, it is a very light drawing. We might see a little bit of pencil line. We want to get rid of it all, but we might still see a little bit because some of our painting of, say, the toucan, some of the colors on the toucan are going to go outside the toucan, and it's okay to go outside the lines because we're going with an abstract mindset. Once again, we know the basics. We know how to create edge and go right up along the edge of our objects. We know good craftsmanship, but now we're going to try and become more creative individuals. So if a portion of the black or these neutral gray blues go outside my toucan into my background, or my background goes into the toucan, or a little bit of red goes outside the edge of the toucan's beak and goes into the background, that is perfectly fine and acceptable and almost encouraged, because then that's going to show your creativity and creative mindset. So I'm going to come in. Once again, I want this painting to be a majority transparent and free-flowing. Free-flowing is a key term here. So brush is extremely wet. Largest brush I have of my round tip. I'm also going to utilize my flat edge brush too. But you can really start wherever, because a little bit of here is going to go a little bit there, and if things kind of start to bleed together and interact, that's perfectly acceptable. But you also need to understand how to control the material in a way that makes it look effective and not just thrown together and sloppy. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the toucan himself. I'm going to create a neutral. I'm not going to use black. Impressionistic painters and artists really avoided the idea of using black. Okay, they really focused on mixing complementary colors. Since my toucan's body has a little bit of blue in it, that would only make sense for me to use complementary colors of blue and orange. If we remember our complementary colors, yellow and violet, red and green. Okay, so I want this neutral to still be on the blue side. So I'm going to come in, grab a little bit more blue because it got a little bit warm, and I want to keep it cool. So now I have that neutral blue. I'm going to come in, once again, majority transparent, just dipped my brush in some water, added some more fluid or water to my paint there, and I'm just going to come in and kind of just be very gestural with my marks, okay? Just like you do with your pencil. If I go outside the lines, that's okay. Kind of intentionally did it right there. Grab some more water. Maybe accidentally accidentally put a little bit of that neutral gray into the area where my yellow is going to be. Once again, that is perfectly acceptable for the idea of the abstract mindset we have, as well as the idea of playing with color and light through the post-impressionistic movement, which I will upload some more information on that movement into the curriculum website for you to review and understand. Now I still want to pay attention to where my darker darks are. I'm going to come in with a little bit more blue in there to develop the neutral into a cooler color. Cool colors being blue, green, violet. Warm colors, red, orange, yellow. Okay, so you can see here that there's a darker version of black right there. I might come in and just grab a touch of black. If you add a little bit of black to your painting, make sure you mix it with another color. You never really want to go straight black with Impressionism, with that mindset. So if you are familiar with Monet's Water Lilies or Van Gogh's Starry Night and things like that, those are impressionistic paintings where they are putting their own impression on what they see through the use of light, through the use of color, and mostly, which we are also kind of focusing on, through the use of brushwork. Okay, with those paintings you can really see the strokes made. Everything's just not blended together like the Renaissance time period painters who just painted to kind of recreate a photograph because there were no cameras back then. So these are all things to think about while you're painting your object. Once again, this is a choice object. You can pick whatever you want. For me, I selected a toucan because they are my favorite bird. There's something like over 50 different types of toucan species, which I did not know that. You learn something new every day, right? So I got to do my research and not only say that my favorite bird is a toucan, but find out which species of toucan is my favorite. I kind of did a little research the other day, and there are definitely some interesting looking ones out there. But I think that's pretty cool. They're all unique and different. Maybe take a trip to the Amazon rainforest one day and see my toucans in person when we could become rich and famous for all my artwork. Maybe one day. Alright, so once again, brush strokes are very loose and gestural. I'm not too specific right now. I'm just laying down the idea of where my darker values are and my lighter values. I am going to start to introduce just a touch of Payne's gray, which is very close to black. Okay, and black I have right here at the very end. This one next to it is Payne's gray, which is one of my favorite colors because it's just got a bluish little hint of it, but is still towards the idea of black. Lots of artists don't even use black. They will use Payne's gray instead. Okay, once again, very loose, gestural. It's okay if I don't fill in every single little gap. Paying attention to where my darker values are, my lighter values, avoiding the area of lighter values for the idea of transparency. Because I'm going to try my best to avoid using white for this specific painting. Come in some more darker values right there. If I accidentally go outside the edge, once again, that is perfectly acceptable for this painting. Okay, now I'm going to start to introduce other colors. Got a little bit of red right there. So there's a touch of dark red on the back side. Clean my brush off. Use the paint that's already on my palette. Come in with more paint, no water. Just kind of fill that in. Oops, my red went on the branch. Perfectly acceptable and A-OK. Now we can also see some other hints of that red color in other areas of the bird. So I'm going to come in and just got a little bit of red right there. I want you guys to be very creative with how you see these colors. So right there I see just a touch of a warm color, which for me is red. I'm going to come in and just touch that right there. Oops, I went outside the bird. Once again, perfectly acceptable for this strategy and style of paint we are doing. Clean my brush off. Move on with some yellow. Find a clean area in my palette, add a lot of water. Dip in some more water. Once again, the majority of this painting, when finished, is still going to be transparent. Okay, just throw on some yellow there. Yellow is your lightest color, so you can always effectively layer other colors on top. I see some green right here around the eye, so that's going to be layered on top of the yellow. Oops, my yellow went into the background, but for this style of painting, I am okay with that. And now I'm intentionally kind of branching off some yellow into the background, but once again, some colors will be layered on top of that. Okay, a little bit of yellow branching into the bluish grays. Clean my brush off. Even though we are very loose in gestural, we still do not want to lose the integrity of our clean colors. Grabbing some green, just going to mix that in the yellow that I already have. Start with the beak, avoiding, for the most part, areas where it's different colors, but if that color does get into the other color, you are perfectly fine. Once again, I've done this entire portion of the painting with one brush because it's my largest brush. I'm adding lots of water, I'm being loose and gestural with it, having fun, not being super serious, but at the same time being serious because I understand what I'm doing and what I'm trying to achieve. Grab a little bit more green. While the yellow's still wet, just kind of slapping on some green on top, and it's blending into the yellow effectively, just directly right on the paper. Grab some more green. Complementary color of green is, what is it? It is red. Alright, so now I can maybe just introduce a little bit of red into that green and throw in some darker values of my green there. Okay, let that kind of dry off a little bit and throw on some more layers on top. Grab some of this red, water it down, rotating my paper or my pad to make sure everything I'm doing is the most comfortable way it can be for me. Grab some of this blue, slap down some blue right there. Okay, let's maybe introduce the branch now. So we need some browns. Just to be impressionistic and develop a little bit of color, I'm just going to mix my browns with this kind of reddish purple here, just because I can, and I'm not sticking to the rules. I understand what I'm supposed to be doing, how I'm supposed to be doing it, but if I break the rules, that's fine because you already learned the real rules of developing realism. And now that you understand how to do that, you have the artistic freedom to be loose, gestural, pick your own colors for the most part, develop a sense of abstractness as well as post-impressionism, but all at the same time have a sense of realism to it that we can understand what you're trying to achieve when looking at the painting. Grab some more water to make it transparent. Okay. Now we can introduce some maybe orange on the beak. Now I did avoid that area and let the area around the beak dry off a little bit because I don't want it to be too muddy. If you get too many colors mixing with each other while they're still too wet, then the painting can become muddy and not very eye appealing to the viewer. And we want to keep the integrity of the toucan or whatever you are painting, but at the same time be loose and gestural. So I'm not going to add this little black area that separates the beak from the body just quite yet, because that'll bleed too much into the green and yellow. So you got to find that happy medium between too wet, too dry. Should this bleed? Should this not bleed? If this bleeds too much into that, then it might be not appealing to the eye or the viewer. And now we can come in with some lighter blue. Get those feet and them talons. Once again, I'm still using the same size large brush because it's just a quick gestural study and understanding in an abstract way of my object or my toucan. I will eventually be able to come in and add more layers, but we want to keep this very quick, light, easy, gestural. Some hints of blue more on the tail. And just touch a hint of blue on the white part there to add some form. Okay. Now, let's introduce the background. For the background, it is majority green. So I'm still going to stick with that green idea. I'm going to grab some green right here. Lots of paint needed. I'm just going to mix it in with the blue because why not? I can do that as an artist, and I can do that as my own individual person and wanting to do that. Clean my brush off, keep the integrity of the pure green. Okay, now you're going to have lots of water. Once again, you're going to use your biggest brush. Lots of water. Lots of water. Lots of water. That was not on repeat. That was me repeating myself. Boom. All right, so do not tear the paper. One thing we really want to avoid is the idea of like streaky line work. I don't want to see the lines, especially for mine, because it's such a blurry kind of background. So the way I'm going to be able to accomplish that is through lots of water. Okay, working quickly, because if you slow down in the water or the paint, the watercolor paint in the background dries, then it won't be able to kind of smoothly blend into each other. So you can see how quickly I'm working. It's all kind of blending together. I'm starting to see that line. I don't want that, so I got to come in. Do not tear your paper. Do not overwork one certain area. Make sure you are quick, loose, gestural. If you accidentally grab a little bit of the colors on the foreground, for me, which is the toucan, that's fine, because we're going with that abstract, impressionistic, post-impressionistic mindset of color, light, brushwork, things like that. All right, so I ran out of all my green. I'm going to come in, grab some more green, place that right there, add some more water to it, add some more water to it, a little bit more green, water. Okay, I'm going to throw that down. Now I'm just layering down a base coat for now, and then I can come in and then add my darker greens, my yellow greens, my blue greens, some other areas of other colors. But right now I'm focusing on filling up all that white. You don't have to get rid of every single little inch of white because this is an abstracted minded piece. But for me, I am a color-minded person and really want to develop all the colors I can, because that's who I am. And once again, you as an artist have the ability to do what you want to do with the kind of strategies that I'm telling you. But that's the beauty of art, because everybody can do what they want to do and how they want to do it. Okay, I'm going to come in with more green and water. I am going to develop the bottom side of the branch. Now my paper is starting to curl a little bit just through the use of all the water and liquid on the paper. We can flatten that out eventually, but just make sure you're keeping the integrity of the craftsmanship of your paper. And not tearing your paper, bending your paper, folding your paper, anything like that. Grab some more green. Eventually I'll come in with a darker green and layer some darker green on top where I see the darker greens on my reference image. I'm painting kind of directly over that brown because I'm perfectly okay with brown and green kind of mixing together because we are keeping that abstract-minded concept. Going right edge to edge. If you want to create a border, by all means, go ahead and create a border. If you feel comfortable with your skills on understanding and knowing how to do that. Just make sure when you're doing large areas on paintings, you are using quite a bit of water so things can flow and blend together. Okay, if you don't have enough water, then it becomes very streaky and liney, and that's not what we want. All right, so in a matter of, in a matter of 20 minutes or so, I was able to accomplish my first layer of a very gestural-minded idea of my object or my item or my picture, which is once again a toucan. You have the ability to select whatever you want, but now that we have the gestural idea of it, I'll eventually come in and start to develop more layers and more details, but still keeping the integrity of the idea of abstract and post-impressionism within the painting itself. Stay tuned, and there'll be another video showing you the next layer. Happy painting!